You can't come to the funeral, Roger said, his voice sharp with finality when he heard about his father's passing after a long illness. What kind of wife skips her father-in-law's funeral? Despite my objections, Roger stood his ground, and I couldn't grasp why. On the day of the funeral, I couldn't stay away and went to observe discreetly. There, I saw Roger seated with a woman I didn't recognize at the family's side. I was stunned and puzzled, wondering who she was and what was happening. The truth that would soon unfold was even more shocking than I could have imagined. I'm Catherine, 30 years old. I've been married to Roger, a 35-year-old office worker, for 3 years now. We don't have children yet. Roger's work often takes him away, leaving him home only about 3 days a week. During his absences, I immerse myself in drawing comics. On his days off, we enjoy shopping, watching movies, and making the most of our time together. Roger's mother passed away when he was a child, leaving his father to raise him and his sister, Sarah, on his own. In the early days of our marriage, we often made the 2-hour drive to visit Roger's family. However, as his father's health declined over the past year, our visits became less frequent. Roger explained, "Doug doesn't want you to see him like this, so I refrained from visiting as his condition worsened." One evening, after Roger returned from work, his phone rang. "Oh, Dad's passed away," he said, his voice flat as he relayed the news. I stopped preparing dinner, and Roger sighed deeply after ending the call. "Was that real? Did you hear that? His condition must have deteriorated suddenly." It was his Uncle Terry who had called. The news of Roger's father's death came swiftly, and Uncle Terry hadn't even had time to contact Roger beforehand. The funeral was scheduled for the day after tomorrow, and Roger was clearly unsettled by the sudden turn of events. As I watched him with concern, I gently suggested, "I'll come with you to the funeral." "No, you absolutely can't come," Roger responded firmly. "Huh? Why?" "It's only natural that I should go," I protested. "Just be quiet and do as I say," Roger snapped, storming off to his room to hastily pack a suit and a change of clothes. "But why? Can you at least tell me why?" "Enough. I'm staying at my parents' house until the funeral. Just remember, you're not coming." "Hold on a minute." Ignoring my pleas, Roger left the house in a hurry. It seemed only right for me to attend my father-in-law's funeral, so why was it forbidden? I was left feeling frustrated and bewildered. Determined to understand, I decided to find out where the funeral was being held. I called my sister-in-law Sarah, who I rarely spoke to, but her tone was unexpectedly distant. "How do you know about our father's death, Catherine?" she asked. "I heard it from Roger." It's surprising that he's already contacted you," Sarah said, her voice laced with confusion. Our conversation felt disjointed, but I was too focused on attending the funeral to worry about it. Despite Roger's instructions, I was determined to say my final goodbye. "I understand, but it's important for me to be there," I pleaded. "My father-in-law has passed away. I need to be there." After a brief silence, Sarah agreed, "All right, but you must keep this between us, okay?" She then provided me with the location and time of the funeral but instructed, "Arrive after the service has started and find a seat where you won't draw attention." I didn't fully understand why I was being kept in the shadows, but I managed to arrange bereavement leave from work and prepared to go. Following Sarah's advice, I arrived at the funeral a bit late. To my surprise, I saw an unfamiliar woman seated next to Roger in the chief mourner's spot. Who is she? Why is she sitting next to my husband? In a daze, unsure of what was unfolding, I quietly took a seat in the back row of the venue. As I settled in, I overheard whispers from the seats in front of me. "Is that woman Roger's new wife, Lucy?" one person asked. Poor Roger. His ex-wife apparently left him with divorce papers and vanished, another voice said. I also caught snippets of other murmurs suggesting I might be having an affair or in financial trouble. The shock of these revelations left me feeling weak and my heart raced. I had never filed for divorce, nor had we ever discussed separation. What was this remarriage about? The situation was becoming clearer as I pieced together the rumors. The woman sitting next to Roger appeared to be in her early 20s and frequently touched her noticeably rounded belly, even though her funeral attire was loose. When it was finally my turn to pay my respects, I stood up. The previously hushed atmosphere of the room began to buzz with murmurs. She really had the nerve to show up. How insensitive, I heard as I slowly made my way to the row where Roger was seated. When Roger's gaze met mine, his face went pale, and he looked visibly shaken, but his new wife seemed completely unaware of his distress. I finished paying my respects and, eager to escape Roger's penetrating stare, left the funeral home quickly. I headed straight to City Hall, where I retrieved my copy of the family register. It showed a deregistration indicating that our divorce had been finalized 5 months ago. My hands shook with anger, and my mind felt numb. How could he have filed for divorce and remarried without my knowledge? I was determined to make him pay for this betrayal. Even after several days, Roger did not return home, and there was no communication from him. Hadn't he said he would stay at his parents' house until the funeral was over? I wanted to confront him, but I decided to wait and see what he would do next. Why would he go through a secret divorce and remarry while still living with me? There had to be more to this story. Reflecting on Roger's past actions, a realization struck me, and I quickly turned on my computer. I recalled him typing away at a blog late into the night. As I sifted through his browsing history, I found a blog titled Roger the Dragon King's Wild Diary. The blog didn't show any pictures of Roger's face, but it did feature photos of his car and our home, confirming it was his. As I read through his posts, it became clear that he had been meticulously planning something, and my anger surged with each detail I uncovered. That's it, I thought, hatching a brilliant plan to get back at Roger. I called my sister-in-law Sarah and another accomplice, preparing carefully. I couldn't wait to see Roger's reaction on the day of the operation. On the appointed day, I stood in front of the house Roger shared with his new wife, Lucy. After a while, a delivery truck arrived, and the delivery man began unloading a pile of packages. Lucy stepped out of the house, her voice rising in confusion. "What the hell is this? Whose packages are these? Hey, darling!" Roger emerged from the house, his eyes widening in shock at the sight of the boxes. "What's going on?" he asked, leaning in to read the sender's name. As he saw it, he started acting suspiciously, spreading his arms to obscure the packages. Well, of course he would, I thought. With the sender listed as ex-wife Hart, Roger couldn't possibly stay calm. Lucy's voice grew louder. "Ex-wife? What's this about? I had no idea." Roger didn't answer. Instead, he quickly paid the delivery fee of $200. As he turned to face me, hidden in the shadows of a nearby lamppost, our eyes met. "Hey, you, what are you doing here?" "I got your address from your sister, Sarah," I replied. I then turned to Lucy, who was watching us with confusion, and gave her a friendly smile. "Hi, Lucy. I'm Catherine, Roger's ex-wife. I sent these packages. I'm sorry to surprise you like this. Roger filed for divorce 5 months ago without telling me." I showed Lucy our marriage certificate, which took her by surprise. She then invited me inside, suggesting we discuss things without causing a scene outside. Once in the living room, I ignored my trembling husband next to Lucy and addressed her directly. "Lucy, when did you start dating Roger?" "About a year ago. He told me he was single," Lucy said. "I can't believe this," I replied, struggling to process the situation. "That's quite something. So he's been deceiving both of us." I said, noting Roger's casual demeanor. Come on, don't make such a big deal out of it. It's just a misunderstanding, right? Roger laughed, his lack of remorse evident. I was taken aback by his nonchalant attitude. It's unacceptable that you filed for divorce without my consent. I'm suing you for $30,000 in alimony. You've been unfaithful, so it's only fair. Why should I have to pay that? Roger protested, his anger rising. Meanwhile, Lucy remained surprisingly calm, unaffected by the escalating argument. Well, don't be so stingy. Just pay her, darling. After all, you're the boss, so $30,000 shouldn't be a big deal, right? I couldn't help but burst into laughter at Lucy's comment. She looked at me, puzzled. Who's the boss? Roger's been lying about that too, Lucy. He's just an ordinary office worker. Who? What? Roger. What's going on? Lucy demanded, her confusion growing as Roger, sweating and clearly flustered, began to make excuses. Lucy, I'm sorry for the lies. When my father died, I thought I'd come into a lot of money. His absurdity only made me laugh bitterly. From his blog, it was clear Roger was deluded into thinking he'd inherit a fortune from his father's death. He had fabricated a story about his identity to his mistress, got her pregnant, and eagerly documented his plan to divorce me unilaterally. As I slammed the printed pages of his blog onto the table, the doorbell rang. Roger opened the door to find his Uncle Terry standing there. There's no way you'd inherit anything, you fool. In fact, Terry was the other person I had contacted, aside from Sarah. Before arriving at Roger and Lucy's house, I had called Terry on my cell phone and had him listen to our entire conversation. You told our family that Catherine left you after having an affair and filed for divorce, didn't you? Roger faltered, clearly unable to fabricate a convincing excuse, and began to get defensive. That's not entirely. Just because you've made up a story doesn't mean you're entitled to inherit anything. You've been disinherited. It's got nothing to do with the estate. Huh? What are you talking about? According to Terry, Roger had persistently demanded money from my in-laws. When my father-in-law refused, Roger would insult him and sometimes even resort to physical abuse. Realizing his end was near, my father-in-law had preemptively disinherited Roger. Wait a minute, so you're saying I'm not getting any of the inheritance? I have debts because I was relying on my father's money. What am I supposed to do? That's what you deserve, I said, feeling a grim satisfaction. If your father wanted you to become a responsible person, that's why he decided not to give you any money. Can't you understand his reasoning? So give me the inheritance, and I'll become more responsible, Roger pleaded, his desperation evident. The more Roger spoke, the more my disgust grew, and it seemed Lucy shared my sentiments. You told me you were a CEO. That's why I got involved with you. I have no interest in a broke man, Lucy said with disdain. Lucy, please don't say that. The baby's about to be born, Roger begged. Lucy sighed heavily and glared at Roger. I'll give birth and raise the child on my own. All I need from you is alimony and child support. Lucy, please forgive me, Roger sobbed, but I wasn't about to show him any mercy. And you'll also owe me alimony, I added firmly. That's impossible. I don't have that kind of money, Roger said, his voice tinged with desperation. Oh, I got it, Catherine. Let's try again, he proposed, his audacity clear. What? You had the nerve to file for divorce and now you want to remarry? I was incredulous. Please, I'm begging you. We can work together to repay the debt, Roger pleaded. Are you serious? Infuriated by Roger's selfishness, I shook him off and stormed out of the house with Terry. Shortly after, Lucy served Roger with divorce papers, demanding $20,000 in alimony and $500 a month in child support. My sister-in-law Sarah informed me that, in addition to the $30,000 in alimony I had demanded, Roger was overwhelmed with debt from the mortgage on the house he shared with Lucy. He was reportedly working tirelessly from dawn till dusk to keep up with his financial obligations. Meanwhile, I was reveling in my newfound freedom. Sarah, who was once my sister-in-law, and I have become close friends, and when she stays over, we have a blast catching up and chatting. To add to my joy, a comic strip I created based on my ex-husband's blog posts has gone viral on social media. I'm thrilled to be preparing it for publication, with excitement building as I brainstorm potential titles for the comic. I'm thoroughly enjoying my new, carefree life,